You ever walk into a place that feels wrong? Not just creepy, but wrong like the air itself remembers something it doesn't want you to know? Urban explorers live for that feeling. The thrill of crossing a crumbling threshold, the echo of your own footsteps in a place long forgotten. But sometimes, what's been left behind doesn't want to stay that way. I've seen it happen more than once. Here are 4 urban exploration trips that started as harmless adventures and ended in ways no one could explain. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. It helps us bring you more stories from the edge of reality. 1. The hotel that still checked people in. Location: Johannesburg, South Africa. They call it the Orion, a luxury hotel in downtown Joburg that shut down after a fire in 1998. 3 friends Sifo, Jade, and Thando ran a small exploration channel on YouTube. They specialize in forgotten spaces, abandoned malls, old hospitals. When they heard about the Orion, they knew it was perfect content. They snuck in through a broken side door. The place still smelled faintly of smoke. Not fresh, but buried deep in the wallpaper, the carpets. At first, everything went fine. They joked around, took turns doing ghost impressions. Then, Sifo noticed something strange on a reception desk at guest logbook. Its pages unburned, resting perfectly clean amid the ash. Jade flipped it open. The ink was fresh, and on the last line under guest name, someone had written, "Sifo M, room 407. He froze. "That's me," he whispered. Thando laughed, thinking it was a prank. "Bro, did you write that earlier?" Sifo swore he hadn't. They decided to go up anyway to see what was in 407. The corridor was darker than the rest of the building, thick with soot. Every door was broken, except one. Room 407. It was clean, untouched, and there was a light on soft and golden, coming from a lamp that shouldn't have had power. Sifo stepped inside, filming everything. The camera caught him walking toward a mirror, then it glitched. For 3 full seconds, the feed warped. When the video returned, Sifo was gone. The other 2 searched the entire floor, then the building, shouting his name. Nothing. Days later, police found Sifo's phone in a hotel lobby. The last video clip ended with static and a faint voice whispering, "Room 407. The building has since been sealed, but locals claim they still see lights flicker in the windows at night, always from the 4th floor. 2. The hospital under the sea. Location: Takoradi, Ghana. This one sounds impossible, an abandoned hospital half sunk into the ocean. It was built during the 1950s on the edge of a cliff, overlooking the Atlantic. Coastal erosion took half the structure years ago, leaving empty corridors jutting out over the waves. For explorers, all university students decided to film there for a Halloween vlog. They arrived at dusk, waves crashing below, the sound like thunder inside hollow walls. One of them, Kwaku, noticed something strange. Even with the tide high, the lower floors were bone dry. No water damage, no seaweed, no salt stains. Inside, hospital beds were still neatly lined, with sheets folded over the corners. Rusted surgical trays sat on counters, but the smell was off. Not rot, more like antiseptic. When they reached the operating theater, they found a light flickering faintly from the ceiling. No one else was there. Then, faintly over the sound of the waves, they heard a gurney rolling down the corridor. One of the girls screamed. They ran toward the exit, but when they reached the main hall, the door they'd entered through was gone. Just a blank wall of concrete. The next thing anyone remembers is waking up on the beach, soaked, miles away from where they entered. Their cameras? Gone, except for Kwaku's. He uploaded what he recovered, a 1-minute clip, showing them running through the corridor, and then, just before it cut off, a glimpse of someone in a surgeon's gown watching them from the waterline. The locals now call that Cliff Assace Urefo the land of the dead. Fishermen won't cast their nets there, and when the tide's low, people say you can still hear the sound of metal wheels rolling against the sea. 3. The school that never closed. Location: Lagos, Nigeria. There's a stretch of old highway near Ape where most cars don't stop. On that road sits St. Mary's Academy, a boarding school that was shut down in 1976 after a cholera outbreak. No one knows why the building wasn't demolished. It just sits there, half swallowed by vines. In 2019, a group of photographers decided to document it. They entered around noon, sunlight slicing through broken windows. Chalkboards still had lessons scrawled across them. Mathematics, literature, dates from decades past. But on one board, written in fresh white chalk, were the words, "Late again, detention." They thought it was graffiti. As they moved down the corridor, they heard faint children's laughter echoing through the halls. Then the school bell rang. Not just a sound, a real mechanical clang that vibrated the air. They ran toward the exit, but the front door was locked from the inside. Through the glass, they could see the outside world, sunlight, cars passing, but no one could hear them pounding. Minutes turned to hours. One of them started praying. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. They opened the door and stumbled outside. Their phones showed the time, 3:17 a.m. They had gone in before noon. When they reviewed the photos, every shot taken inside the building was pitch black, except one, a photo of the classroom chalkboard. And written across it in glowing letters was a new message: class dismissed. For the manor that builds itself. Location, Devonshire, England. A famous urban explorer named Riley went missing in 2022 while documenting an old Victorian manor rumored to be alive. The place, known as Harrogate Hall, was said to change layout depending on who entered. Doors that didn't lead where they did before, stairs that ended abruptly, windows showing rooms that didn't exist. Riley's last upload still exists. It starts like a normal exploration vlog, drone shots, creepy music, his usual commentary. But halfway through, his tone changes. He sounds confused. "I'm back in the main hall, I think, but this staircase wasn't here before." He keeps walking, filming every turn. The camera shakes as he breathes harder, muttering, "It's looping. The rooms are looping." Then a voice, not his, a woman whispering, close to the mic, "Keep filming." The footage ends there. 3 days later, the police found his van parked near the estate. Doors open, engine cold. Inside was his phone, still recording audio. It captured 5 hours of faint breathing and the occasional creak of floorboards. But the last sound, just before silence, was the same whisper, "Keep filming." Today, explorers who visit Harrogate say new graffiti has appeared on one of the inside walls. It reads, "Riley was here," but when they return later, it's gone. Urban exploration looks thrilling on camera, the adrenaline, the mystery, the what-ifs. But when you walk into a place that time forgot, you're walking into someone else's memory. And some memories don't like to be disturbed. For stories, for people who wanted to document the unseen, and maybe they did, but not everything you record wants to be watched. So the next time you stumble upon a restricted area or a crumbling doorway that seems to call your name, ask yourself one question before you cross it. Am I the one exploring or being invited in?